Hey, it's Triple H here. It's Howie here in Oklahoma City, and I'm with my friend Justin Finley.
Hey.
And he's got quite the collection here of relics and all kinds of goodies. And I'm going to have him talk a little bit about one of the remarkable pieces that he found. And he's got it here on display on his wall. I'm going to let him talk about that. It's eventually going to go to a museum in Coffeyville, right?
Yes. Well, several years ago, me and my dad actually wanted to try to look for a treasure that was actually in one of Jameson's books, Buried Treasures of the Great Plains, where it talked about how in 1892 the Daltons had actually buried $20,000 in gold and silver coins in their camp, and that they buried it and was going to come back for it after they got done robbing the two banks in Coffeyville. However, of course, they died, and so we thought, well, let's go up there and try to find the campsite. Well, we actually found the campsite. Turns out, from Emmett Dalton's book, they never buried the money there. They only stole, there was nowhere near 20. It was about $2,000. They spent most of it on new horses, women, new saddles, basically new supplies, new everything that they wanted. And by the time they got up there, what they had left was in their pockets. And they did camp on Onion Creek on the P.L. Davis farm, and we figured out where exactly that used to be at one point in time, and we went out there and checked. And while I was walking along, I tripped over some large, almost railroad ties. And so once we figured out, like, well, there's no railroads that was near here, we're on the farm, that means the bridge that they camped under must be nearby. Walked around, sure enough, down inside the creek bottoms was the frame for the old bridge. Well, we started looking around, started cleaning the area up, trying to search, see what we could find, and we found this.
Check that out.
This is the left gun holster, and it was all in pieces because obviously 100+ years in the weather broke it apart into pieces. Just earlier this year, I actually came up and found a way to pry the pieces of leather apart, put some styrofoam inside of it, and I just went ahead and put the whole thing together with tacks and things like that, just to kind of keep it together. So this was a left gun holster. The only one that didn't have a left gun holster at the time of the gunfight was Grat Dalton.
And which one is he up here?
I believe that this is actually Grat Dalton over here.
And this was a younger picture of him here.
Exactly. This was him when he was about 18, 19 years old, they said.
This is when the gang got caught and shot up.
Exactly. Now, the only one that's not shown up here is Emmett, and that was because he's survived, but they actually dug 22 bullets out of his back at the ending of the gunfight. And he still survived, became a movie producer in the 20s out in Hollywood. And he even made a movie about the gunfight.
And what draws the conclusion here that this is indeed actually his left holster here? What's the history behind that?
Well,
what we know?
The fact is that so far the history shows is that whenever they were taking everything off the dead bodies, that on Grat, he only had a right gun holster. And they said that he had a .45 Colt, I believe is what they said, still stuffed inside of his belt. So it comes to pretty much assumption that he ended up breaking his gun holster, and once he broke the gun holster, he threw it down inside the camp, left it there for me to find.
Okay, and then what's significant about this bottle? I know you were going to talk about that.
Now, the bottles, according to Emmett Dalton, when he was in prison, he talked about how he and his brother Bob, who is the second one in the picture there, had downed a pint of Dutch Courage brand whiskey, and they were down that while they were planning to hit the town of Coffeyville. This bottle is a Dutch Courage brand bottle, and it was actually found right next to the gun holster.
Wow. So
we know that this was held and drank and used by the Dalton gang while they were planning to hit the town. And then there's a smaller bottle here. It's got a white powder substance in it, and what that is that it's copper sulfate. Copper sulfate was used by gunfighters back in the day to put inside their gunshot wounds because it would actually stop the blood vessels from flowing, but that way they could get in there, get the bullet out, and
kind
then
of help with the clotting.
Exactly.
Help them increase their
their chances of
survivability
survival.
and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Well, hey, Justin, appreciate you sharing that story. That's pretty
No
awesome.
problem.
Great.